good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. I'm Véronique, the moderator of today's webinar. Thank you for joining us for our first episode of sustainability webinar about fashion. Some technical notes first. Please note that your volume has been muted to maximize bandwidth. And talking about bandwidth, I apologize for not being able to appear clearly on the video. But after living for many years in Hong Kong and China, I'm now based in ski resort in Switzerland, where I enjoy fresh air and pure water, but unfortunately, unstable internet connection. You can't have it all, right? I hope you can hear me though. And if you do, please confirm and say hello to us in the chat box, which is at the bottom of the screen. The good news is we are recording this webinar and you can see it on YouTube. Simultaneously, we are broadcasting this even on APLF Facebook. So don't hesitate to tell your colleagues, friends, and family to follow along. If you are enjoying the webinar, please interact with us on Facebook and feel free to use the chat function to chat with us and let us know you're enjoying it. If you have any questions during the webinar, please type your question in the Q&A box, which is also at the bottom of the screen, and we will answer you during the Q&A session. Well, before we start and before we have our two parties come on stage, we would like to show a couple of videos. It will last no longer than 5 minutes, and it will introduce one of the topics that we will be focusing on during this webinar, which is the Billie System.
Closely with the Innovation and Technology Commission so that our projects and activities are able to align with government policies. We strive to make sure that funding support is properly used. With effective communications with our industry partners, we set our research agenda, line up industry collaboration, and transfer technology and know-how to our stakeholders. We create new markets and opportunities for our industry and drive improvements for society. Over the years, we have accumulated research deliverables which have formed research clusters. One of them is advances in technology, such as the improvement of manufacturing methods, materials science, and better supply chain solutions. It is in the face of fierce global competition. Another theme is the pursuit of sustainability, which helps improve the standard of production and quality of life. It strikes a balance between society, the environment, and our economy. Technological advancements shape the course of social development and tackle today's pressing social issues. Improving the well-being of each and every sector of our society is also one of our research themes. R&D is important to the development of Hong Kong society. So that's why we take every opportunity to interact with all stakeholders. We value these exchanges to build trust and partnership for a better future for our community.
Sustainability is a priority for all of our clients nowadays. You know, in Hong Kong, 340 tons of textile waste is sent to the landfill on a daily basis. We're very proud to have developed the Billie System that handles the recycling of textile waste, and it's the first textile mill to open in Hong Kong in 50 years. I'm Rana Chow, Chairman of Novetex Textiles Limited, creator of the Billie System.
The Billie is a patented system.
It's a combination of new and existing technologies to recycle textile waste without using water and without hazardous discharge. We pre-sort our textile waste by fiber content. Then we put them through a sanitization process using ozone with no water and no hazardous discharge, safeguarding our hygiene levels. Then to the only manual labor part of the process, we cut away trims, including buttons, zippers, and other hardware. The garments are then automatically sorted by cameras and sensors into 9 main colors and stored, and robots then retrieve the materials and sends them to the next step, which is the fiber processing stage, including chopping and carding, which then processes the fabrics into fiber. The fiber is then sanitized 2 more times using UV. Again, no water, no hazardous discharge. And then it is processed into slivers, which can be further blended to make brand new yarn. We've taken a lot of our customers through the Billie System, and the reaction has been excitement, encouragement, very, very positive, and they keep asking us, how much faster can we scale up? And that's something that we're working towards. Novetex Textiles Limited was founded by my grandfather in the late 1970s. Novel in Chinese means forever new. So being innovative has always been in the DNA of this company. My grandfather was an innovator. My father developed a lot of new qualities of yarns. Billie is my grandfather's English nickname, and I thought it would be a nice touch to spell it with IE. The Billie System is only providing a solution for one part of the much larger textile waste production problem. It's going to take a lot more people to join in this movement. We need mindset change in terms of production, in terms of consumption. It has to be a big transformation.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Veronique, but
okay, but I don't seem to have the video starting.
Host asked me to start video. Okay, there I am.
And how about me? Okay, we're still waiting for Edwin. Okay, coming. Okay, Edwin, are you online?
I am.
Hello.
All right. So now that you're already on stage, let me introduce you to Rona Chow, the chairman of Novetex, which you had a chance to see during the video. So Novetex is a textile market leader with operations across Hong Kong, if I'm not mistaken, China and Asia. Rona belongs to a family who has been in the textile industry for many generations, right? And she will introduce us to an avant-garde textile upcycling system called Billie, actually named after her own grandfather, as was introduced in the video. And then we have Edwin Kay, who is the CEO of the Hong Kong Research Institute of Textiles and Apparel, better known as HKRITA. Edwin, has a long list of awards, and then, but just to name a few, he was named the best of top 50 innovative retail leaders, and he's on the Debrett Hong Kong 100 as one of the most influential people in technology and digital sector. He also filed multiple IPs, which won Global Innovation Awards, and was closely involved in the development of the Billie system, but also a system that he's going to introduce further, which is the G2G, garment to garment system, which is shown at the, remind me, Edwin, where is this?
It's at the mills.
At the mills, right? Yeah, at the mills, which I had a chance actually to visit a couple of years ago. But I know that there's a lot of updates that Edwin is going to introduce us later. Rona, shall we start with you? And can you give us a brief, I mean, I think we've learned a lot already from the video, but can you give us a brief description of the Billie upcycling project? And then tell us how did it start and how your two organizations, I mean, Novetex and HKRITA, came to work together?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Veronique, for the introduction. Hi, everybody. I think in the video, it was already mentioned that Novetex is a almost 50-year-old yarn spinner. And so the original idea behind the Billie system is really an inward-looking one. We, like all textile manufacturers, in our manufacturing processes, we also produce a lot of waste in the form of unused raw materials or misdyed yarn or defects, you know, that happens. And also in cases of fulfilling orders from our customers, we often have to make a little bit more in case they want to reorder, in case some or part of the products, part of the order is defective. So what ends up happening is we have a lot of this excess that ends up not being used, not really saleable. And we took a look at all the unused inventory in our systems, and we thought, how can we recapture the value? Because cashmere textile waste is still cashmere. You know, lamb's wool, merino wool is still merino wool. So we went to HKRITA. We've actually known Edwin for a long, long time. We've been in different partnerships together, and they are obviously the top brain in this area. So we went to them to explore the possibility of coming up with a system to tackle our own internal textile waste production problem. So that's how it all started.
Okay, and if I understand well, I mean, there's a small replica of the Billie system at the mills, which was developed by the HKRITA, and which is called G2G for garment to garment. Can you tell us more about it, Edwin?
Sure, I'd be happy to. The garment to garment system is a consumer-facing retail system. And whereas the Billie system is seen as a large-scale industrial solution, this is seen as a way in which we can engage consumers to talk directly about how they also can participate in the recycling and repurposing of apparel. So, and this project was co-sponsored by both Novetex and the H&M Foundation under the Innovation and Technology Fund of the Hong Kong government. And the idea there is that we actually took an experiment and put it in a retail shop. We asked consumers to come bring their old clothes, and we take their clothes, which may be no longer used, be usable in its current form, and we break it down into a fiber. We build up yarns from there, and we have a 3D knitter on site, and we knit them new apparel from the clothes that they bring.
So do you feel that consumers, I mean, play the game? I mean, do they actually bring, I mean, their old garments and then ask them to be, I mean, reshaped and then redone?
Yes. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I've been on site when people come in with clothes that have a lot of sentimental value. You know, maybe it's something from their parents, it's something from their husband, or something that they met on their first date, or something that they have a lot of sentimental value to. And so yes, I think a lot of consumers understand that whereas fashion cycles are getting fast and faster, the materials that are used to make our apparel is by and large quite robust and useful, and has a much longer useful life than the apparel itself.
Okay, you two mentioned, I mean, you, Rona, mentioned about cashmere, you, Edwin, mentioned about yarn. Does it mean that we can only use, I mean, this kind of fiber, or can other kind of textiles, I mean, can be used, can be, I mean, upcycled?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Edwin, go ahead.
sorry, chime in, but yeah, we of course the looser the material, the less tension it is under, the easier it is for it to be processed. So sweaters and T-shirts are prime candidates for these types of recycling. But then we also will try other materials like woven materials, shirts, jackets, what have you. The only things that we can't process so far are things like down jackets, rain coats, or coats that have heavy waterproofing. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a very versatile system.
Yes.
I'll give a couple of real examples of what we've been able to process. So as I mentioned, the original idea of the behind the Billie system was to process garments and really garments. We were at one point a very large sweater manufacturer as well. So the system was originally designed with this purpose in mind. But in our in becoming more in kind of promoting what the system can do and reaching out to different industries, we've been able to actually drum up a lot of interest from, for instance, the hospitality industry, from hotels, from F&B industry, because they use a lot of textiles as well, and also from companies that have a lot of uniforms. So we've been able to process, for instance, bed sheets, like Edwin mentioned. These are wovens, not knitted textiles. Bed sheets, bed covers, a lot of T-shirts. The most recent case, we are in the process of receiving about 5.5 tons of T-shirts that we can put through the Billie system and turn back into fiber and into yarn. So as we talk to more and more people, we're also looking at different areas and different things that we can put through the Billie system. But there are limitations. For instance, a very big carpet manufacturing company based here, they came to us, they wanted to upcycle or recycle their carpets. Now that's very, very difficult, even though it's wool and that we would love to deal with the wool. The backing in the carpeting, which is rubber, basically restricts us from putting it through the system. But that doesn't stop us from exploring possibilities with these potential partners. So we started talking to them about helping them to come up with an upcycled collection, for instance, using upcycled wool, either from their waste or from other waste, and then helping them design or helping them manufacture an upcycled collection of carpets.
Okay, that's what we call cradle to cradle, right? Involving the sustainability from the design point of view and not waiting for the end process. To think about sustainability.
That's right.
Okay, I know that there is some collaboration with the H&M Foundation. Could you one of you tell us more about it? And then, are you expecting more brands, to be involved?
Yeah. So the H&M Foundation came to us about 5 years ago. Then they were looking for a technical partner to help them to work on sustainability and the challenges with circularity and recycling. And so we took on that challenge, and we've been working with the foundation on different recycling systems and methods. So this the G2G is an example of that, but there's a lot more chemical recycling, mechanical recycling, and Rona has been very kind to loan us space in her factory for us to put in a hydrothermal system, which is another pioneering effort to separate mixed materials into cellulosic material and synthetic material.
Okay.
So yeah, lots of activities going on. But we also work with most of the other major brands and as well as manufacturers on different types of solutions. So we're very non-selective about who we work with.
Okay, very open about it then. Yeah, so I know that among our audience, there are a lot of technical people. So I was wondering who may be interested in knowing what equipment, what machineries, and also expertise is required. Could you tell us a little bit more? What it requires. In terms of equipment, and maybe also in terms of investment and expertise?
Edwin, you want to talk about the technical stuff?
Yeah. The Billie system is for us a system integration challenge. It was putting in a lot of, it was not a lot of inventing new ways of doing something as much as repurposing and then scaling up and automating a lot of existing know-how. So we spent a lot of time on the front end, which is dealing with how do you treat your inputs. So how do you sanitize them so that they can be processed? And so that's with and we had some macro principles. One, we don't want to get things wet again. So we want everything to be dry processed as possible. So we use things like ozone and gases like that for sanitization. And then the separation process are use of things like spectrometers and to separate them into the different colors. And then it's a matter of putting using a series of robots, robotic arms to put things in the right bins, and then AGVs to move these bins in the right places, and then also to dump the material when they are ready for processing, which is the output part. And there we took advantage a lot of equipment and know-how that Rona and her team already have, and we repurposed a lot of some of the in-house systems that they have to do a lot of the breakdown of the materials. But the key strength of the system is that it is highly automated, and so and as mentioned in the video, apart from the process of removing the hardware, everything else is done by the system. So moving and processing are all done automatically.
Okay, so to recapitulate, a lot of system integration and say robotization, I would say,
yes,
is required, not so much like manpower.
Yeah.
So would you say that, I mean, this system, I mean, both the Billie system on a large scale and then the G2G system on a smaller one, more portable one, would you say that it's really, I mean, it's easily replicated? And are you being approached, I mean, by organizations and companies that would like to replicate it?
Okay, it's, as Edwin mentioned, there's not a whole lot of new inventions involved in what is the Billie system today. And especially if you look at some of the parts near the end of the process, they're no different from the traditional steps involved in yarn spinning. The breaking down of fiber, the making of slivers, and then turning it into roving yarn and all of that. That's nothing new. Is it replicable? Is it easily replicated? To be honest, I think so. We have a patented system here, but there are different ways of achieving the outcome without necessarily using exactly the Billie system. There are actually quite a number of people who have approached us about licensing the system, you know, asking us if we could put it, for instance, in North America, South America, other places. And we have been exploring all of these potential opportunities.
Okay. How about on your side?
Well, I think Rona is being very modest here about the genius of this system. Don't forget, 5 years ago, when the original concept of the Billie system really came from Rona and her team. We did the technical execution of it, but conceptually, the whole thing was they really had a very clear picture of what works. Now, there's actually two things I would say that makes up for the genius of the system. One is that it is if you look at it, you say, oh yeah, it's all of these components are quite conventional. Yet nobody have put it together the way that the system has been put together. That's why it's the first in Hong Kong, and it's the first in many ways, and that's why I think Rona will attest to it. it's sort of like a tourist attraction some weeks, because there are hundreds of people who want to go through and look at this. The other genius of the system is that the Billie system is located in Hong Kong. So it is a factory in one of the most expensive cities in the world. You know, land is expensive, labor is expensive, everything has to be very compact, and then there are all these rules and regulations about what you can discharge, how much pollutants you can, you know, you have licenses for everything. You can't discharge wastewater, you can't have fumes coming out of your facilities. So for the Billie system to get a license, I think the first new factory in Hong Kong in 50 years was how the government described this. Yeah, is that if it works in the most expensive city and most crowded city in Hong Kong, it works anywhere in the world. I mean, it is a real. The genius is that it is a real world solution. Recycling is at the heart a logistics problem. Especially post-consumer recycling. The materials for recycling is in the wrong part of the world. It is in the advanced economies, not in the manufacturing economies. And the Billie system solves that problem. So yeah, if you break it all down, it looks quite, you know, but in fact, that's the genius of it, I think, I would say.
So since you, I mean, talking about, you know, the production, and we at the moment, you know, with the sanitary condition in the world, I mean, we're talking more and more about relocation of production, and especially in the textile industry. So have you been approached by companies in, I mean, organizations in Europe, but also maybe in Africa or in China, which is just next door, and you know, which is one of the biggest, the biggest producer of textile. Do you have any like concrete example that you could share with us?
So the Billie is located in Hong Kong, and the Billie system can process textile waste, and the outcome is roving yarn, which is what you saw in the video, slaver twisted into a thick yarn. So that is not yarn. We have a very large factory just across the border in Zhuhai, and which is why the Billie makes sense for us. So we can send the output, the product of the Billie system, to our factory in Zhuhai, where we then do the blending into the roving yarn. We blend in new virgin fiber, and then according to the customer's requests and requirements, we spin into new yarn, upcycled yarn. So for us that works, but we've actually received a lot of interest from manufacturers, or, you know, like I said, hospitality groups located in China, and their concern or their interest is they have large quantities located in China, all over, you know, from the west to the north to the south. And to them, it would make the most sense if there are the Billie system lines located right in China, so they don't have to ship the textile waste to Hong Kong and then for it to be sent back to Zhuhai to be processed. So we are currently internally exploring those ideas, because it would require additional investments on our end, right? And another issue, for instance, is there are customers who have reached out to us. They have a container full of, for instance, Italian suiting fabric scraps in a big container at the port in Shanghai, and they can't. That container cannot enter China because it's considered waste, and so they end up kind of, you know, floating around for a while. And we can offer the solution by having the stuff be shipped to Hong Kong, and then we process it here. And once it's roving yarn, we can send it, again, we can send it across the border to Zhuhai, because it's no longer considered waste.
All right, okay. So there are ways, yeah, to I mean, you know, turn around the system. Yeah. So you mentioned about investment. Could you give us an idea? Because I mean, all this machinery, all this system integration, the space, Can you give us, that might be one of the challenges, right, that some organization may face if they wanted to implement that sort of a system?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
Gwen?
yeah. It's a matter of public record. We spent about the system itself was about $1.5 million US, because we built it as a prototype. Any systems from here on out will be a lot cheaper than that. But again, it was I have to credit Novetex, because 5 years ago they committed to this this idea well before anybody was thinking about this as a viable business model. So.
Okay, I'm just curious because this is where I'm from. I mean, you know, from France, you've probably heard that Paris wants to be, you know, it's going to host, or is supposed to host, I mean, the Olympic Games in 2022, if I'm not mistaken, and or 2024, and they wanted to turn Paris into the capital of sustainable fashion. So have you been approached by any organizations in France, you know, who might be encouraged by the government? And because also I know there is a new law in France where waste, I mean, you know, surplus of fashion, even in a luxury, you know, from luxury brands, cannot be destroyed anymore and has to be either reused or recycled. So have you been approached by any French organization so far?
We are working with a lot of fashion brands, actually. Mm-hmm. I can't mention their names, some of them, because they want to keep it kind of quiet. But I currently, we are working with a luxury French garment brand, fashion brand. Okay. And very interestingly, initially, and many of these apparel brands come to us with the same original problem. They have textile waste they want to get rid of. They don't want people to know about it. They want to dispose of the waste in a responsible manner. Also because, as you mentioned, there are new rules and regulations that won't allow them to, for instance, burn, you know, which many people used to do. Now, most of them come to us initially saying, please just help me responsibly dispose of this textile waste. And I only want to know what you do with it. I'm not going to use it myself. But in the process of seeing what the Billie can do, quite a number of them are now very, very interested in using the upcycled yarn from their textile waste and putting that into a collection. So that's what's happening.
Okay. So talking about collection, I mean, I think we need to talk about design, right? When I visited the G2G system at the mills, I remember that there were some designs, I mean, quite basic, but, you know, I mean, beautiful, attractive. So what kind of challenges has a designer have to face? I mean, you know, using this kind of upcycled yarn, and I mean, what's the situation there? Do you have, like, at the G2G, do you have, like, new designers coming up? What kind of training do they require? I mean, what's the situation?
What we'd like to, for designers, it's an open invitation. Come work with us. We would love to program your design into our system so that the output is your design. It's just that consumer is bringing the raw material for the designs. That, if you think about it, is truly a way to digitize fashion, right? Mm-hmm. Designers are selling designs rather than selling apparel. And we don't want designers to have to compromise just because it's a sustainable source where the material is coming from. So we want to make sure that the performance of the materials that we produce, the hand feel, the tensile strength, the look, all of it is as good as anything that they would be able to get in a virgin state. But yes, we do need a lot of help because, you know, at least speaking for myself, I am not a fashion person. I don't understand fashion design. We are sort of engineers and scientists, the worst people to talk to fashion about. So, but we have the hardware, right? it would be great if there are people who can give us creative input to that hardware. And Veronica, you've been to the G2G system. It's basically a glass wall. So it's very, and the reason why we have the whole process visible and open up for everybody to see is we want it to be quite collaborative. We want people to tell us what they think, show us what they like, and teach us how to be better.
So talking about collaboration, do you have any special collaboration with designers or maybe with schools? I mean, you know, with academics, either in Hong Kong or elsewhere?
We do. We have ongoing partnerships to work on technical solutions with many of the larger material science universities across the world. In the United States, in the EU, our longest research partnerships are in Japan, where there's a high demand and expectation of quality. And we also work very actively in China as well, where there's a huge marketplace. But like I said, we are open to all sorts of collaboration, and we collaborate we have collaborations with brands and all the way down to manufacturers and material suppliers.
Well, I hope that people, you know, among the audience, I mean, people who are listening to the webinar, I mean, will come forward. They're very welcome, and also with questions, which we will ask later on. Yeah, just, I mean, something that I would like to clarify. When I visited the G2G, again, I mean, a couple of years ago, I remember that, I mean, some new fiber had to be added to the upcycled one in order to strengthen it and I mean, you know, to add some more properties to it. Is that still the case, or have you found a solution whereby we can only use, I mean, upcycled, recycled fiber?
Well, yes, we still are blending virgin material in, and how much we blend in depends on the condition of the material that comes in. So I'll give you an example. I brought a 20-year-old sweater for the team to process, and it was quite worn, and the fiber was quite brittle, and so they had to throw in almost about 50% virgin material in that case for it to be strong enough so that it can be knitted again. Some people bring in newer materials, and so in that case we try to only blend in about 20-30% virgin material. Because we're using a 3D knitting machine, we don't want the yarns to break because it's under a significant amount of tension. Our goal, of course, is to get to a point in which we don't have to blend virgin material anymore. But so we're working hard on it.
Okay.
I think with the Billie system at the more industrial level, again, echoing what Edwin has said earlier, really what you put in affects obviously what comes out. And we've actually made samples with 100% upcycled yarn. And again, it depends on what you put in, right? So obviously the fiber is brittle, more brittle, shorter after processing. So the hand feel, the tensile strength is not as good. But if it depends on what the consumer's requirements and standards are, right? So if somebody says, I absolutely want 100% upcycled sweater, and I can compromise on the hand feel, I can compromise on the strength or elasticity of the yarn, then it can be done. But commercially, most people don't want that. So we still have to do the blending, you know, the percentages of virgin material to make sure that the hand feel and the strength and all of that is still commercially meaningful and viable.
Do you find that consumers, I mean, you know, mentality, I mean, the mentality of consumers is changing, and then they might be more understanding, maybe, I mean, lower their standards, I mean, in the sake of, I mean, you know, of protecting the environment? Do you find that already, or?
I personally have not seen that because so far I think the upcycled and recycled products that we see in the market are of high quality.
Yeah.
Right? So no one is necessarily going to say, I want to forego the nice hand feel because I want this to be 100% upcycled.
One of the first products out of the Billie system was a sweater for H&M, and H&M sold it without ever mentioning that it was recycled or there was anything special to it, and it never came up as a concern.
Right.
All right. Okay. Well, I think we have just between 5 and 10 minutes to go before we take the Q&A session. So we cannot, I mean, you know, nowadays talk about anything, any business without mentioning the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. So does it have any impact at the moment on your business in Hong Kong, but also outside? I mean, on your future collaborations? And you know, what is your I know, I mean, this pandemic is changing a lot of mentalities. So what is your perspective on this?
I think on the manufacturing and production front, we have been very, very negatively impacted. One of the major problems is everything basically came to a standstill, right? So for instance, this French brand that we were talking about, they're very, very keen and enthusiastic about the process of upcycling the materials that they gave us. And they were so excited, they kept asking us what's happening with it and all of that. But in terms of making decisions, it took much, much longer than normal because nobody was really going to work and the teams couldn't meet. And so, you know, while everybody's being very understanding and we're just excited because people are progressing with these projects, it's been frustrating because it's slow. It's very, very slow. And in the yarn, on the Novetex side, obviously you can see, you know, with the global economy the way it is now, it's only natural for brands to slow down their production, to slow down their manufacturing, because sales aren't moving, you know, products aren't moving. So we have seen some cases where orders that should have been placed, for instance, in last November or, you know, early this year for delivery by end of spring, isn't happening. Everything is being deferred. So that's those are some of the major impacts that we've seen. I don't know about, you know, Edwin, your perspective might be different.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think everybody, nobody knows what the demand is going to be like going forward. So it's very hard for them to figure out what to order and what the market place will be like. But I think but at the same time, there is sort of a silver lining that people recognize that for consumers to be to stand out as a brand, you have to have something that aligns with what is important to consumers. So sustainability is something that has been very consistent as a value that consumers are asking for. So consumers now have a choice about who they shop with, and they're going to spend very carefully. So they will look for purpose and look for value in their consumption. So this is how you stand out. I think the work continues. So for us in terms of sustainability, but that the old sustainability standards, I think are just the minimum requirement. Is the message we keep hearing, that everybody expects you to be sustainable. What you have to be is to be beyond that. You have to think about how can your brand be actually so different, as in that you are actually doing a lot of good, and you are not only a low carbon brand, but you are a negative brand, if you will. And those are the challenges that the sustainability and circularity really are bringing the challenge to the forefront. I mean, I see questions in the box about what are we doing with footwear? Can we process silk? And yes, all of those things are things that we're challenging. I think the great thing with the Billie project is that it opened up the door for people to talk about circularity and made it very mainstream. Now everybody wants that to be part of that. So different types of materials and different brands want to be in on this as well.
Okay. Edwin, while you mentioned one last comment, sorry, Veronique. Since you mentioned circularity, one thing that we've noticed when we're working with a lot of our branded customers, they have this really high level goal of being completely, fully circular themselves. Right. And what we've seen is that in itself is quite challenging because large brands, we've talked to very large brands down to very small brands, very small customers. The larger brands have this difficulty of, I have a mountain of years of unsold inventory and I don't know where to start to sort all of this, into different fiber content and all of that. So, and then of course, the very large brands are organizationally very large, multi-level, and it's not just 2 or 3 people deciding what to do, right? So to be fully circular, they face a lot of barriers and obstacles. So I think it takes some time for them to figure out how to do that. The smaller brands, they also really want to be fully circular, and the quantities are small. But the difficulty they face there is in the collection. They don't have enough of their own textile waste for us to process into enough yarn to make into another small another new collection. So what we've been talking to all of our customers and potential partners is, yes, being fully circular on your own is wonderful, but you can jump in at different points of this circle, where perhaps, and we've had some success with some of our customers. Why don't you use the yarn from this 5-star hotel's bed sheets? It's super high quality cotton and you can see it. And then you can tell your customers, tell your end consumers where this came from. So it's all about participation. Eventually, maybe you can be fully circular, but you don't have to wait. You shouldn't wait until you're able to do that to have, to focus on the sustainability initiative and the movement.
Okay, so cooperation is key, right? Yeah, which is very much, the kind of society, we are hopefully going, towards too. Okay, well, I'm glad that we, end this webinar on a positive note. That's exactly what, the kind of feeling we need today. And I would like to now go back to the Q&A session, because apparently we have a lot of questions. You noticed one, Edwin, which I had noticed too. Can silk be upcycled? That was one of the questions.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We're doing that right now.
Sorry?
Yeah.
We are doing that right now with a customer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would be challenging about silk?
It's quite fine. It's quite lightweight.
It's very fine.
All right. Okay. Fine and fragile. Yeah. I know, APLF, deals a lot with leather. And I'm sure that we have also some tanners and people from the leather industry, listening to this webinar. Would that be something? I know it has nothing to do with fiber. Also, now, there are different kinds of different ways, of producing leather. Are you being approached by tanneries, for instance?
We are.
That we can consider in the future.
Oh yeah, no, it's not the future. We are looking at leather right now, and we have already some small scale experiments on leather recycling. Leather to us is just a protein-based material, raw material. So yes, absolutely, and it's quite a durable material, and we want to recycle it. So we are in the process of doing that right now.
All right, that's good news because, you know, there's a lot of polemic, you know, about, I mean, controversy about leather. So, I mean, that would, you know, I mean, being able to upcycle it, I mean, would be definitely, you know, a plus for the industry. And I'm sure that the tanners who are, you know, listening to us, I mean, consider that as a good news. Okay, so let me look at other questions. Yeah, you know, I mean, looking at the questions, I mean, you know, there's a lot of questions about leather. Okay, so there's a question to Novetex. If a brand wishes to buy yarns from Novetex, will the brand automatically be able to upcycle their liability? And also, if brands use your yarn for production, will brands be able to promote the use of such yarn?
We would absolutely love for any brands to promote the use of the Billie yarn. You know, we do this with all of our other customers. You know, when we had a different program with a global brand some years ago. It was for merino wool, specifically from one farm, and it was a unique spinning method, and the wool quality was very, very high. So this brand took the entire output from this farm, and it was a branded yarn, and they put that hang tag and the label on their garments. So it is absolutely, we can do the same thing with the Billie yarn, of course. To upcycle the liability, I don't know exactly what that means. You mean after they use our yarn, whatever's left behind, they automatically get it upcycled with us? I don't know if that's what the question was.
Well, yeah, the question is a little bit vague. I mean, but you know, I'm sure that, I mean, there are many of them actually. So I'm sure that, you know, you'll be able maybe to answer this question, I mean, directly to the person who asked it. Another question, which I think also, I mean, I mean, is related to, you know, some of the talks that we had earlier. Is the yarn produced by the Billie applicable to all garment purpose?
Mostly for knits, ideally. So anything that is knitted, not necessarily garments. You know, you could knit bags, coasters. We're actually coming up with a line with upcycled hand knit yarn for home goods. You know, table mats, cushion covers, whatnot. So, but because what the output out of our Zhuhai factory is yarn mainly made for, you know, knitting. Mm-hmm. That's what the purpose is.
The main purposes. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So as you mentioned earlier, you know, we were talking about how collaboration was necessary. I can see a lot of questions about the minimum weight of textile scrap that is needed. Again, does the Billie system have any minimum weight requirements for input materials? Does the brand have to send you a minimum amount of post-consumer waste? I think, as you mentioned earlier, you know, like smaller, I mean, smaller companies, smaller brands who, you know, are not too sure, you know, how they can upcycle their scrap, I mean, their waste. That seems to be an issue, right? So yes. Again, collaboration is key. Are you trying to, I mean, you know, what kind of incentive, I mean, can Novetex offer, I mean, to these small companies that, I mean, you know, don't know what to do with their textile scrap?
Okay, so basically, and Edwin, please jump in whenever if I'm missing something. We always talk about efficiency, you know, when you work with machinery, right? So I answered an earlier question just by typing out the answer. Somebody asked, what is the maximum capacity? How much can we process in a day? So I currently have 3 lines of the Billie in our typo factory, and each line at its maximum, assuming we process knitted textile waste or, you know, the proper kind of textile waste, ideally, we should be able to process about a ton per line per day. Okay. So again, it depends on what is put in, right? So is there a minimum weight of textile scrap that is needed? It really depends on what is being collected. So if I am collecting 100%, I don't know, 800 count cotton from, and they're all white, from 6 different hotels, and each of them gives me a ton. That's more than enough, and they don't all have to come from the same source, right? Because it's pretty much the same kind of material, same color, and all of that. So conceivably, I can collect like that from manufacturers. If A brand, B brand, C brand, D brand each gives me 500 kilos or 200 kilos of white t-shirts, to me it's the same thing. I can process that. So it really depends. So I would encourage anybody who is interested to contact us, and we can explore the possibilities of collaboration.
Okay, that's good, because there are many questions, I mean, concerning that. I can see that many questions also are related to the finished product. You know, what kind of quality, yeah, what kind of quality, I mean, you know, in terms of cotton, polyester, or any other fibers. I think there are a lot of questions about that, you know, I mean, the fiber that you end up producing from this waste material.
That's the beauty of the Billie system too. It's quite versatile. It's not selective about what it, you know, how heavy does it have to be or anything like that. So it's quite dynamic.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking at other questions. Yeah, what fibers make the best recycled textile? You mentioned cotton and wool, right? I mean, fiber. There are quite a lot of questions about that.
There really is no bad. Yeah. So there really is no bad fiber. I mean, you know, it worked the first time.
Okay.
I think, you know, again, I go back to efficiency, and there's always some kind of wastage, right, in any processing.
Yeah.
So to reduce the amount of wastage as much as possible, and to increase the efficiency of the processing, ideally, we prefer to work with fabrics or textiles that are no more than three qualities, 3 kinds of, you know, a combination of no more than 3. So wool, cotton, silk, wool, cotton, poly, whatever, you know, because when it is very, very mixed, it's difficult to what goes in is what comes out, right? And then it's difficult. And the other thing is, I also have to consider the value of the fiber that comes out. As we mentioned already, once it's processed, the fiber is already, you know, maybe weakened, shortened. And so if it's already, if it's very, very mixed and you process it, the outcome is very likely to be even weaker. That means I probably have to put in more virgin material to increase the strength, the hand feel, and all of that. So these are all the things that we consider when we decide what to process, what to receive in terms of textile waste. And surely Edwin and his team are constantly thinking of ways to improve, you know, the functionality, efficiency of you know, maybe Billie 2.0, Billie 3.0.
Okay, I can see also questions about sanitation. I understand that, I mean, we understand that you use ozone instead of water. Well, at this time of, you know, pandemic, where, you know, where hygiene and sanitation has become like a big issue, can you guarantee, I mean, like 100%, I mean, sanitation to the fiber that that you produce?
We've tested the system, and it kills 99.9% organics. It's quite an adjustable, versatile system as well. So it's quite an effective way of handling that material, and we've done some other projects that we sort of usually always take advantage of Rona's hospitality in the middle of the pandemic. So we helped do some packaging for the pandemic as well, and those were the things that required a high level of cleanliness. And so basically the packaging area in Rona's place right now is a medical grade clean room. So it's yeah, it's quite safe. It's probably cleaner than the new clothes that you buy today from the store.
I was about to say that.
Yeah, I guess so. I can see another question about the cost of the upcycled yarn compared with, I mean, the normal yarn of the same quality. How does it compare?
Theoretically, it should be lower, but again, it depends on quantity, right? So economies of scale and all of that. Because we do have to add virgin material, so that part is a cost. But if you think about it, you are using less virgin material, and the upcycled part of the fiber or the yarn, you can think of it as basically cost-free, because I'm taking what somebody gives to me as waste. And actually, in most cases, we charge a processing fee for handling what they don't want. So if you think about it conceptually, it should be lower than 100% virgin yarn.
Okay, all right, that's a good news.
The business model is to have output as good as virgin material, but it doesn't cost as much as virgin material. And your savings is not only in the material itself, but in transportation, logistics, and other things like that.
Okay. What else? There are many questions, and then it's still more coming. Yeah, I mean, again, lots of questions about cooperation. How to gather waste to reach I mean an acceptable amount, quantity.
The easy answer is always to get Rona's email address.
Yeah, well, that's probably what's going to happen, because again, there's a lot of questions about how to collaborate. Yeah, I even have like some quantities, 500 tons per month.
Okay.
Yeah, how do you collect the textile waste? I mean, and are you paid to collect them? I mean, how it has to be delivered, I suppose, to the plant, right? To the factory.
Yeah. Okay. So it depends. We have a number of different models because, as I've mentioned several times, we work with different size customers, right? Some are very, very large. So if somebody is sending me 5.5 tons of T-shirts, they will do the transportation and the logistics themselves. In our discussions with different fashion brands, we actually forged a very interesting logistics partnership with a big retailer based in Hong Kong. They offered to us, when we went to them asking if we could have their textile waste, and they said very proudly they do their buying so well, they don't have textile, they don't have waste, they don't have unsold inventory. The only things that they have are defects or things that are torn and not saleable, very few. But they offered to us their logistics system and their warehousing system. So they go locally and beyond. They have a logistics network in China. They have a logistics network in Europe. There was a case probably 3 or 4 months ago at least. We had a customer who had almost 30,000 pieces of uniform in Switzerland or Italy. They wanted it they wanted them sent to us for upcycling. But we all they research on their end the transportation cost, we research from our end the transportation cost, and it just didn't make sense. So this logistics partner offered to transport all of these garments to us at a very low cost, almost for free, because their containers are empty coming back from Europe.
Right.
So, and they also offered to warehouse this stuff for us until we need it. So that's for the larger quantities, but even for the smaller quantities, they said to us, okay, if you have a customer of 10 stores in Hong Kong and each store has stuff to be collected, we can send our trucks to collect, we warehouse it for you, And when the quantity reaches a certain amount, you just let us know and we ship it to your factory. So these are the kinds of collaborations that have been born out of our discussions with potential customers.
That's really good news. Again, the collaboration, I think it will probably be the buzzword. I mean, the main word of the whole webinar. I mean, cooperation, collaboration, and to see it happening actually is really I mean, soothing. I have a question here. Is the majority of the product waste coming from brands, manufacturers? But how about public waste? I mean, you know, do governments also? Because, you know, I know a lot of people, I mean, deposit their, like here in Switzerland, you know, deposit their old clothes in special containers. I mean, is there also, I mean, is that also a source of waste, I mean, that, you know, is being used by the Billie system?
We haven't done anything with the government as yet, and I think very understandably so. Most governments in the world currently are focusing on other big problems like, you know, pandemic problems and other things. Mm-hmm. We have been approached by a number of NGOs locally who collect used and unwanted clothing. The difficulty that we've experienced with them is the following. They usually collect a wide and very diverse range of clothing, from evening gowns, you know, high-end couture suits and dresses and things, down to, you know, very old and used t-shirts, sportswear, underwear, etc. So one example where we were discussing with a local NGO, they wanted to stay true, and we understand that they want to stay true to their mission of repurposing the different categories of clothing. So first, whatever is is still in very good condition, resaleable, they will resell to raise money for the NGO and whatnot, right? And then the next level, for instance, middle tier suits and work clothes, they would give to people who needed them to wear to work. Mm-hmm. So you go down the ladder, and what's left that they cannot repurpose and revalue, they want to give to us to process. But that tier of textile waste is very, very low in quality and value, and such a mishmash of different fibers. And so we actually worked with them and said, okay, why don't you try to collect for us this amount of knitted garments and sweaters? And in their effort, in their campaign, they could not reach the minimum quantity that was meaningful for us to process. So I think it doesn't mean that this model doesn't work. Maybe a number of NGOs can work together. Okay. This is what we see in a lot of cases, right? Each organization is doing its own thing, and there isn't a concerted effort. If there is a bigger collaborative base, then we can conceivably process what nobody else wants. That is a possibility.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a new trend also. I mean, you know, instead of having these NGOs, I mean, doing their own work on their side, I think there are initiatives. I mean, I've heard of some, at least in this part of the world, in Europe, of, you know, having some, especially with the technology that enables now to collaborate online. I mean, you know, to have these NGOs cooperating rather than working on their side. I have a question for you, Edwin, from someone from the audience who asked how many products a customer need to bring to the G2G to transform it into a new product?
One.
One, okay. That's a quick answer. Okay, and then there'll be I mean, a number of options, right? I mean, of design.
Yeah. You don't even have to bring anything. We have a lot of the G2G shop exists in an experimental retail space that we have there, and there we are selling a lot of sustainable products from different manufacturers and designers. So come by, have a look, and then decide from there. So there's lots of options.
Okay, all right. Well, I think we will end we've reached the end of this webinar, and then again on a positive note, you know, encouraging everyone to go to the mills, which is, by the way, a very nice place. And, you know, well, I don't know how it is at the moment,
Very
but I guess
crowded.
it's still open, and you can wear a mask. I mean, if you wear a mask, you can go to all these little places, and I think there are bars also, and then shops, and then of course the D2G container. So yeah, I encourage everyone to you know, go and visit the mills, contact directly Rona and Edwin, and thank you very much to both of you. I know it's a challenging time at the moment in Hong Kong. I mean, the pandemic, some political issues, and a typhoon, I heard, which is on its way. So thank you again.
So much excitement.
Thank you again, I mean, to both of you, and keep healthy and safe.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye. Thank you again. Bye.